as a great way of serving our community so that we can get the help in there. And I'm not just focusing on 46218. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm an executive of my own business. So I know how to look at what's going on maybe 10 miles from where we are from 4618 into 46201 or 46202 or 46205 and talk to the executives and say, this is a real opportunity. Let's stop sending people to prisons and jails. Let me say this. America makes up 5% of the world's population, yet we house 25% of the world's population. Now, as an African-American male, we make up less than 5% of Marion County's population, yet we represent 38% of the criminal justice system here.
Wow.
So the numbers alone are alarming. It's disturbing. And my heart and my passion is to make sure that when we get around that city council, the business is not done like I've seen business done when I'm sitting in the city council.
So
meetings.
you're running as an independent. So
running as an independent.
You don't have the backing of either the dominant parties. Why should, because you're almost standalone, so why should voters elect you who, they're not really familiar with, and you're not running or have the backing of either the two dominant parties as an independent? Why should voters elect you?
That's a great question. I just look at that differently. I'm not standing alone. I'm standing with the people.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, it should be about people. And what disturbs me is the fact that we have hijacked, in a sense, people's creativity, their ingenuity, their access to contribute. To be quite frank, I was Democrat all my life before I started down this road. There's nothing that I would never think outside of Democrat. Every time I voted, it was Democrat. But when I started trying to get involved with the Democratic Party, and I had a layout plan. Now, everything I do from an exec position. So I'm coming with statistics. I'm coming with data. I'm coming with a solution. I'm a solution-based person. So when I come with that type of plan and put all that energy in it, and I can't even get it heard, K. Sweetie Bell tells me, would you not run? Then, hey, if you guys don't want to hear me and you guys refuse to slate me, I'm strong enough to slate myself.
I know that's right.
And so, the interesting thing about that is running independent is one piece, but once you actually get there, you then have some alignment that you need to do in order to work on committees to get the work done. And so best wishes on that piece. But have you answered the question for yourself of how you align should you become elected?
Well, the funny thing is, it's not really funny, but just from a strategic position, if the numbers stay the same, 11 Democrats, 11 Republicans, me and D is run as independents, we would be the swing vote of everything. Mm-hmm. So if everybody decided to go party on each item, then the last two people would be us deciding what would be the end vote. Have we ever had something like that before in city council?
I'd have to go look for some history on that, and I'm not sure if I can get a response back
I
fast
have
enough.
Never seen that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can get a response back fast enough, but I can try it.
So Dwayne, I'm coming back to you. What makes you stand out from other candidates that are running in your district? You have an interesting position because the Republican incumbent is supporting you. Mm-hmm. So that says a lot about who you are, what you stand for, and your vision for your district. Mm-hmm. So what makes you stand out from your opponents?
So earlier this year when I made the decision to run for council, one of the first conversations that I had was with our current counselor, whose name is Susie Cordy. Once I learned she had decided not to run for re-election. And we talked for about an hour and a half about stuff. And in that conversation, it led to another conversation, which led to another conversation. And it was just me sharing my heart with her and sharing my desire to help people and sharing my desire to make sure that our residents don't continue to be forgotten. And Susie said, since I'm not running for re-election, you're the person that I want to represent me. And this decision has nothing to do with partisan alignment. It's not a Democrat or a Republican situation. It's the facts based on the experience that I have versus my opponent. At the time when that decision was made, I had a different opponent. Her name was Carrie Zapfi. She decided to move to Martinsville. Now we have a new opponent, and he has lost a couple races here recently, and does not have the same experience or background as I do. I've worked on all three layers of government. I've worked for the city of Indianapolis, also worked for the city of Bloomington while in college, managing economic development and tax abatement programs and projects. Work with major businesses in the city of Bloomington to make sure that they were compliant with their tax abatement agreements as far as producing the jobs on the schedule that they said they would produce them, growing their business and growing the wages as they agreed to, and just making sure that they were held accountable. Okay. Those are things I did in college. I've worked on the state level, and I've also worked on the local level. I ran a program called the Land Bank, which is now morphed into what we know now as Renew Indianapolis. I helped create that program. I was given on my first day on the job a book with the state statute and the list of vacant properties that the city owned, and was told, go forth and make a program. So I took nothing, and I created standard operating procedures. I've worked with every single department in the city of Indianapolis to make sure that our properties that the city owned were cared for properly, were maintained, because one of the problems I heard was the city owned the worst properties on the block. Mm-hmm. The city's properties had the overgrown weeds. The city's properties had the illegal dumping. The city's properties had the issues. So I work with other departments to resolve those issues so that we're good neighbors. Created policies and procedures, applications and processes for getting those properties into the hands of the people who needed them or could develop them, created a side lot program for people who wanted to buy the lot next door to them and just maintain it as their own. I can go on.
Yeah, so go on. Obviously, you've already been doing the work.
I've been doing the work.
And so now this is just a formal way of putting yourself in a position to empower your community even more.
Because
basically.
Here's the deal. Even with the work that I've done, it's been based on policies that somebody else had to create. So now I feel I would be in a position to create the policies to do more.
Right.
And to make sure that the dollars that $3 billion budget we just approved, that those dollars get funneled to the areas that need them most.
Okay. Mr. Lipscomb, what makes you stand out from the other candidates that are running in your district?
Thanks for asking. I do have to congratulate you for that extensive resume. That's impressive.
Thank you.
I think I stand out because you allow me to tell my story of where I come from and where I am today. Our district is a little bit different, whether you look at gerrymandering or whatever. The facts are the facts. The facts is the fact that 46218 has been neglected like you wouldn't believe. 46218 has been neglected like you wouldn't believe. And the numbers just speaks for itself. And you can see areas like Fountain Square and downtown College area. And some of the older people that lived here all their life, they're amazed because certain areas now that if you was to try to buy a house, they literally couldn't afford it. But back in the day, those houses were such that no one would even want to feel like they wanted to live in them.
Exactly.
But yeah, so we share in that way as far as construction. I'm African American male here in Indianapolis. I'm the only African American who has a vocational training school that's nationally accredited through NCCR for construction. So I kind of share in that way of having a passion to want to see these blighted houses, abandoned houses, fixed up, put back on the market. particularly allowing the people that live in the community to buy those houses, because we got 83% of 46218 rent their houses, so they don't even own their own housing.
Wow.
So
that's huge. That's a whole nother.
yeah,
That's a whole nother.
That's
show.
a whole other show topic.
Yeah, that's a whole.
Talk about
nother
home ownership.
and then when I go and I
Institutionalized
walk
racism.
the community, and I start putting my card on houses that I'm thinking families live in, and I was just really appalled to understand that there's really no one living in those houses. I mean, door after door after door. And so the way I stand out is the fact that I have this passion to help the full community, not just some. And I don't like talking about the incumbent a lot, but part of the reasons why I'm running is because I initially thought I could just go to the person that holds the seat and address these things. And I quickly discovered that the passion that he has is not for the complete community. It's only for a few. And so I stand out because I will have the same passion for all of the community and not just for some of the community.
Okay. We're going to take a break. We got to pay some bills. So we're going to take a commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to turn this conversation up just a notch, and we're going to dive into the Black agenda. We're also going to talk about our police department and how, they don't reflect the community they serve. And so, yeah, we're going to take this up a notch. So you've been tuned in to Let's Go There with Cassandra. We're on a commercial break. We'll be back in a few seconds.
When you have a growing family, other things in your life start getting bigger too, like your home.
Can't wait for the new Jack! What?
And especially your bills.
That'll be $249.86.
Oh.
But with Allstate, the amount you can save is getting bigger too. Because right now, when you bundle coverage for your car, home, motorcycle, and more, you can save up to 30%.
Call Adrian Smiley today at 317-228-0707.
All right, so that was a quick commercial break. We are back from commercial. We are going to turn this conversation up just a little bit. Before we do that, I do want to ask both potential candidates, what are three major issues you plan to address, starting with Mr. Dwayne? What are the three major issues you plan to address if you were to get elected? I ain't going to say if, I'll say when you get elected.
Access to healthy food options, transportation, because we have none in my district, and also economic development.
Okay. Mr. Lipscomb, what are your three?
Three? Well, I have five.
Okay, go ahead and tell me all five.
Okay, poverty is the number one concern we have. And then underemployment, because we have a lot of people working, but they don't have a livable wage job.
Mm-hmm.
Then we hit around the housing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also entrepreneurship. And the last one I say that would keep all of those together would be community engagement.
Okay.
Ask people, can you please just start speaking to each other again? I think that would be pretty nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, Dwayne, you talked about transportation. What are some of your thoughts around how you can improve that particular area in your district?
So what we're talking about is simple solutions for simple problems. Currently, we have a transit system that for the most part operates on a grid. And they pick an area based on their current ridership, and everybody outside of that area, you don't need transit options. Well, our bus line is on Emerson, although the residential in the district is far east of that. So my resolution to that would be something very simple. Just have one bus route that makes a circular loop around the district, or just not necessarily focused on the district, but one loop around the south side. It could run once an hour, once in half an hour, something, but give people an option where we can get to the grocery store on the other side of the district or on the other side of the neighborhood without having to depend on a car.
Okay. And what are your plans for? Did you have a follow-up question to that?
Well, yeah, I was just going to ask, as you've been walking your district and meeting with people, have you been getting support for mass transit? We've got mass transit's a heavy topic in our community, and a lot of times we find people who are comfortable and used to their current modes